"Can I share this table?" Thomas Brooks looked up from his daughter's drawing to see a woman standing beside their corner booth. She was maybe 38, casual in a simple red t-shirt and regular denim shorts, blonde hair falling loose around her shoulders. And she had one arm. Her left sleeve hung empty, pinned neatly at the shoulder where her arm should have been. "Sure," Thomas said, gesturing to the empty side of the booth. "We're just drawing while we finish our coffee." "Thank you." The woman slid into the seat with practiced grace, setting her simple canvas bag on the table with her right hand. "I'm Luna Reeves. Thomas Brooks. This is my daughter Mia. She's 6. Mia looked up from her crayon masterpiece, a purple cat with 17 legs. "Hi, did you lose your arm?" "Mia." Thomas felt heat rise in his face. "I'm so sorry," but Luna was smiling. Not the polite corporate smile Thomas recognized from his years investigating white-collar crimes. A real smile. Warm. Genuine. "It's okay. Yes, I lost my arm in a car accident 8 months ago. A truck hit my car on the driver's side. The doctors couldn't save it." If you want to know how a waiter with a sharp, investigative mind uncovered a billionaire CEO's attempted murder disguised as an accident and found love in the process, hit that subscribe button. This story proves that sometimes the questions a 6-year-old asks lead to the answers that change everything. Thomas Brooks was 34 years old and hadn't worked a real investigation in 5 years. Not since he'd quit the district attorney's office to become a full-time single dad. Not since his wife Rachel had died of a brain aneurysm, leaving him alone with 3-year-old Mia and a career that required 80-hour weeks he could no longer give. Rachel Marie Brooks, born Rachel Santos, Thomas's college sweetheart, best friend, the love of his life. They'd met at NYU during freshman orientation, both 18, both terrified of college, both pretending to be more confident than they felt. Thomas had been studying criminal justice, planning to become a prosecutor. Rachel was getting her master's in education, dreaming of being the kind of teacher who changed kids' lives. She'd been brilliant, funny, the kind of person who could walk into a room of strangers and leave with 15 new friends. The kind of person who made everyone around her feel smarter, funnier, better just by proximity. Their first date was coffee at a crappy campus cafe. They talked for 6 hours, missed their afternoon classes, didn't care. Thomas knew by the end of that conversation that he'd marry this woman. Didn't tell her that, would have sounded insane. But he knew. They dated through college, moved in together senior year despite both sets of parents' protests. Got engaged at 23. Thomas proposed in Central Park with a ring he'd saved for 6 months to afford. Got married at 25 in a small ceremony with close family and friends. Rachel wore a simple white dress from a department store. Thomas wore a suit his father lent him. They had 40 guests, a cake from a local bakery, and a honeymoon that consisted of 3 days in a cheap hotel upstate. It was perfect. They'd lived in a tiny 1-bedroom apartment in Queens, both working entry-level jobs, Thomas as a junior prosecutor, Rachel teaching 4th grade at a public school. Money was tight. They ate a lot of pasta and discount groceries, couldn't afford cable TV, walked instead of taking cabs, didn't care. They had each other. That was enough. Rachel got pregnant when they were 27, unplanned but wanted. They'd been talking about kids, planning to wait a few more years, but life had other ideas. Rachel took the positive pregnancy test to Thomas's office during his lunch break. Stood in the doorway grinning and crying and holding the little plastic stick. "We're having a baby," she'd said. Thomas had cried. Actually cried at his desk in front of his paralegal and 2 junior lawyers. Didn't care. He was going to be a dad. Mia was born on a Tuesday in October, 8 pounds, 4 ounces. Lungs that announced her arrival to the entire maternity ward. Rachel had labored for 14 hours. Thomas held her hand the whole time. told her she was amazing, brought her ice chips, counted through contractions, felt absolutely useless and completely essential at the same time. When Mia finally arrived, Rachel had held her and cried, "She's perfect. We made a person, Thomas. An actual perfect person." Thomas had agreed, had looked at his newborn daughter and felt his entire world rearrange around this tiny human who was depending on him for everything. They'd brought Mia home to their still tiny apartment, set up a crib in their bedroom because there was nowhere else, took turns walking her during midnight crying sessions, survived on 3 hours of sleep and pure love. Rachel went back to teaching after maternity leave. Thomas worked his cases. They juggled childcare with Thomas's mother and a neighbor who babysat. It was exhausting. It was chaos. It was perfect. Mia was 3 when everything ended. Rachel had been at work. Tuesday afternoon, November. She was helping students with a science project when she said her head hurt, sat down at her desk. One of the kids ran to get another teacher. By the time help arrived, Rachel had collapsed. Brain aneurysm, catastrophic rupture, the kind that kills instantly or leaves you brain dead. Rachel never regained consciousness. The school principal called Thomas at work. "Mr. Brooks, there's been an accident. Your wife collapsed. Ambulance is taking her to Mount Sinai. You should come now." Thomas remembered that call with perfect clarity, the principal's carefully neutral voice, the way his hands shook holding the phone, the sprint to his car, the drive to the hospital where he ran 3 red lights and didn't care if he got pulled over. He arrived at the ER to find organized chaos, nurses running, doctors shouting orders, someone pushing a crash cart, and in the middle of it all, Rachel on a gurney, unresponsive, machines beeping, medical personnel surrounding her. Thomas tried to get to her. A nurse stopped him. "Sir, you need to wait. They're working on her." "That's my wife. That's Rachel. I know. But right now the best thing you can do is let the doctors work, please. Wait room is this way." Thomas had sat in that waiting room for 3 hours, called his mother to pick up Mia from preschool, told her there'd been an accident but didn't have details yet, tried not to think the worst, failed miserably. A doctor finally came out. Young woman, maybe 30, with exhausted eyes and blood on her scrubs. Thomas knew before she spoke. You could see it in her face. "Mr. Brooks? Is she—" "I'm so sorry. We did everything we could. The aneurysm was massive. She didn't suffer. She was gone before she even hit the floor." Thomas heard the words, understood them intellectually, couldn't process them emotionally. Rachel was dead. Rachel, who'd been alive and laughing this morning. Rachel, who'd kissed him goodbye and told him to remember to pick up milk on the way home. Rachel, who was supposed to grow old with him. Impossible. "Can I see her?" His voice sounded wrong, distant, like someone else was speaking. They let him into the room. Rachel lay on the bed looking exactly like she always did. Peaceful, beautiful, like she was sleeping. Thomas took her hand. Still warm. How could she be warm if she was dead? "I don't understand," he told the doctor. "She was fine this morning. We had breakfast. She helped Mia find her shoes. She was fine. Aneurysms are like that. No warning. Nothing you could have prevented. A weak spot in a blood vessel that suddenly ruptures. She wouldn't have felt pain, wouldn't have known. She just slipped away." Thomas sat with Rachel's body for an hour, held her hand, told her he loved her, apologized for every fight they'd ever had, every time he'd worked late, every moment he'd taken for granted, made promises he'd never be able to keep, asked questions that had no answers. Eventually, a nurse came in gently. "Mr. Brooks, we need to... There are forms, arrangements. I'm sorry." Thomas signed papers he didn't read, made decisions he couldn't process, called his mother back and said the words that made it real. "Mom, Rachel's dead." Then he drove to his mother's house to pick up Mia, 3 years old, playing with blocks in the living room, happy, innocent, about to have her world destroyed. Thomas knelt down beside her. "Mia, sweetie, Daddy needs to tell you something sad." "Where's Mommy?" "Mommy got very sick today, and the doctors tried to help her, but they couldn't. Mommy died, baby. She went to heaven." Mia looked confused. "When is she coming back?" "She's not coming back, sweetheart. When people die, they don't come back. But she loves you so much, and she's watching over you from heaven, and Daddy's here. Daddy's always going to be here." Mia started crying. Thomas picked her up and held her while they both sobbed. His mother cried in the doorway. The world felt like it was ending. Maybe it was. The world with Rachel in it was over. Now there was just this new horrible world, where Thomas was a widower, and Mia was half-orphaned, and nothing would ever be okay again. The funeral was a blur. Hundreds of people. Rachel's students, their parents, colleagues, friends. Everyone saying how sorry they were, how Rachel had been special, how unfair this was. Thomas stood there holding Mia, nodding, accepting casseroles and condolences while feeling absolutely nothing, numb, hollow, like someone had scooped out his insides and left only a shell. The DA's office gave him bereavement leave, 6 weeks, told him to take his time. His supervisor, Margaret Chen, had been understanding. "Family first, Thomas. The cases will be here when you're ready." But Thomas wasn't ready, not after 6 weeks, not after 6 months, not ever really, because going back to work meant 70-hour weeks, late nights reviewing evidence, weekends preparing for trial, being on call 24/7, leaving Mia with babysitters more than with her actual parent. And Mia had just lost her mother. Thomas couldn't make her lose her father too, not to death, but to absence. So he quit. Resigned at 29 with a stellar record, a promising career, and absolutely no regrets. "I need to be present for my daughter," he'd told Margaret. "I can't do that working these hours. I'm sorry." Margaret had understood. "You're making the right choice. Mia needs you more than we do. But Thomas, you're one of the best investigators I've ever worked with. If you ever want to come back, the door's always open." Thomas had thanked her and walked away from the career he'd spent his 20s building. No plan, no prospects. Just a 3-year-old who needed stability and a father who was determined to provide it. He'd taken a job as a waiter at the Morning Brew, an upscale cafe near his apartment. The pay was terrible. The hours were demanding but predictable. Morning shift, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. Home by 3 to pick up Mia from preschool. Evenings free for dinner, bath time, bedtime stories, all the parenting moments that actually mattered. The work was mindless after years of complex legal investigations. Take orders, deliver food, smile at customers, clean tables, repeat. Thomas was overqualified by several degrees. His co-workers were mostly college students and aspiring artists. None of them knew he'd been a senior investigator at the DA's office. None of them knew he had a law degree. He was just Thomas the waiter, friendly, competent, forgettable. But he was present for Mia. That was what mattered. 5 years later, Thomas was 34. Mia was 6, thriving in 1st grade. They lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment, made ends meet on Thomas's waiter salary plus Rachel's life insurance money that he'd invested carefully. They weren't rich, but they were okay. Today was Thomas's day off. He'd taken Mia to the Morning Brew for hot chocolate and colouring time. It was their Saturday ritual. Same corner booth. Same order. Hot chocolate for Mia, black coffee for Thomas. Same comfortable routine. Then Luna Reeves asked to share their table, and everything changed. Thomas watched Luna order a cappuccino with her right hand, the movements confident despite the obvious adjustment to one-armed life. She pulled out a tablet and stylus, started reviewing what looked like financial reports. Mia, never one for social boundaries, kept staring. "Mia," Thomas said quietly, "it's rude to stare." "I'm not staring. I'm observing." Mia had recently learned that word from her teacher. Now she used it for everything. "How do you tie your shoes with one hand?" Luna looked up amused. "Very carefully, or I wear slip-on shoes, like these." She lifted her foot to show simple canvas sneakers. "What about buttons? Those are tricky. I've learned to love elastic waistbands and pullover shirts, though I'm getting better at one-handed buttoning. YouTube tutorials help." "What about—" "Mia," Thomas interrupted gently. "Let Ms. Reeves work. I'm sure she didn't come here to answer 20 questions." "Actually, I don't mind." Luna set down her stylus. "It's refreshing. Most adults stare but pretend not to, or they act overly careful around me, like I'm made of glass. Your daughter is honest. I appreciate that." "She gets it from her mother," Thomas said without thinking, then felt the familiar pang. Got it from her mother, Rachel. She died 3 years ago. Luna's expression softened. "I'm sorry. Brain aneurysm, sudden. Mia was 3. That must have been incredibly hard. Still is some days." Thomas took a sip of coffee. "But we're managing, aren't we, Mia?" Mia nodded seriously. "Daddy takes good care of me. He makes pancakes every Sunday, and he does voices when he reads stories, and he lets me pick the music in the car, even when it's the Frozen soundtrack for the millionth time." Luna smiled. "Sounds like you have a very good daddy." "The best daddy." Mia went back to her drawing. Thomas felt Luna watching him, not with pity, with something else. Respect, curiosity. He couldn't quite place it. "What do you do, Thomas?" Luna asked. "Besides excellent parenting and Frozen marathons." "I'm a waiter, here actually, at the Morning Brew. Today's my day off." "Do you like it?" Interesting question. Most people asked what he did, not whether he liked it. Thomas considered his answer carefully. "It's not what I planned, but it lets me be present for Mia. That matters more than career satisfaction." "What did you plan? Before?" Thomas hesitated. He didn't usually talk about his past. Didn't want pity or judgment or the inevitable question about why he'd thrown away such a promising career. But something about Luna's direct gaze made him honest. "I was an investigator, district attorney's office, specialized in financial crimes, corporate fraud, that sort of thing. I was good at it, really good, but the hours were brutal. After Rachel died, I couldn't do both, be a present father and work 80-hour weeks, so I chose Mia." Luna studied him with new interest. "Financial crimes investigator, that's impressive. And you just quit?" "The job would still be there. Mia's childhood wouldn't wait." Easy choice, really. Most people wouldn't see it that way. Most people prioritize career over family, especially men. Most people didn't promise their dying wife they'd always put their daughter first. The words came out harder than Thomas intended. "Sorry, I just mean I made a choice. I'm okay with it." Luna nodded slowly. "I respect that. I've spent my whole life prioritizing career. Built a company from nothing, sacrificed relationships, friendships, personal time, all for success. I'm CEO of Reeves Tech, billion-dollar company, Forbes list. The whole thing. But I eat dinner alone most nights. Don't have kids, don't have anyone waiting at home. Just an empty penthouse and quarterly earnings reports." She smiled ruefully. "Sometimes I wonder if I made the wrong choice." Mia looked up. "You don't have any kids?" "No, sweetie. That's sad. Kids are great. I'm great." Luna laughed. A real surprised laugh. You are absolutely right. You are great. You could have coffee with us every Saturday, Mia announced. Then you wouldn't be lonely, and you could tell us about your arm, and we could tell you about Frozen. It's a fair trade. Thomas felt his face flush. Mia, you can't just invite strangers to— I'd like that, Luna said, looking directly at Thomas. If it's okay with your dad. Thomas found himself nodding. Sure, every Saturday, same time, same booth. And that's how it started. Luna came back the next Saturday, and the Saturday after that. It became routine. Luna would join them at the corner booth. Mia would draw and ask inappropriate questions with the brutal honesty of 6-year-olds. Thomas would drink coffee and find himself talking more than he had in years. Luna told them about the accident in pieces over those Saturday mornings. It was March 15th, she said on the third Saturday. I was driving home from the office, late, almost midnight. Someone ran a red light. Trucks slammed into my driver's side door. They said I was lucky to survive. Didn't feel lucky when I woke up in the hospital missing an arm. Did the truck driver go to jail? Mia asked. No, they never found him. Hit and run. Police investigated but couldn't identify the vehicle. Said there weren't enough witnesses. Something in Thomas's brain clicked. The investigator's instinct that had been dormant for 5 years suddenly woke up. Hit and run. Midnight. No witnesses. Where exactly did this happen? Luna named the intersection. Thomas knew it. Financial district. Lots of security cameras on the buildings. And the police didn't find any camera footage? They said the cameras in that area weren't working. Coincidence. Thomas felt the familiar tingle of suspicion. All the cameras in the financial district? That's what they told me. What kind of truck? White van. That's all I remember before impact. Did you have enemies? Business rivals? Anyone who might want to hurt you? Luna's expression shifted. Why are you asking? Because I spent 5 years investigating corporate crimes, and this doesn't sound like a random accident. This sounds like attempted murder made to look like hit and run. Luna set down her coffee carefully. You think someone tried to kill me? I think it's worth asking questions. You're a billionaire CEO. You make decisions that affect people's money, jobs, livelihoods. That creates enemies. The timing, midnight, empty street, suggests planning. The disabled cameras suggest someone with resources and technical knowledge. The hit and run ensures no witness or driver to identify. This wasn't some drunk driver. This was deliberate. Mia looked between them, crayon forgotten. Someone tried to hurt Luna? That's mean. Very mean, Thomas agreed. Luna, did anything unusual happen before the accident? Threats? Business disputes? Anything that felt off? Luna thought carefully. There was my divorce. It was finalized 2 weeks before the accident. My ex-husband, Derek Chen, was furious. Said I ruined his life by divorcing him. Why did you divorce? I caught him having an affair with his secretary, confronted him. He didn't deny it. Said he'd been unhappy for years, and I was married to my work, not him. Maybe he was right. But I wasn't going to stay married to someone who cheated. So I filed. How was the divorce settlement? Luna's jaw tightened. Contentious. Derek wanted half of Reeves Tech. Said he'd supported my career early on, deserved compensation. I argued that he'd joined the company after it was already profitable, contributed nothing to its success. Judge agreed with me. Derek got $5 million cash. I kept the company. He was livid. Thomas felt pieces clicking into place. Angry ex-husband, bitter divorce, contested company ownership. And 2 weeks later, Luna loses an arm in a suspicious accident. Luna, do you still own 100% of Reeves Tech? 90%. I sold 10% to investors years ago for capital. What happens to your shares if you die? Luna froze. They transfer according to my will, which I updated after the divorce. Everything goes to charity. Derek gets nothing. And if you're incapacitated, unable to run the company, there's a succession clause. Board of Directors votes on interim CEO, but I'd maintain ownership unless I'm declared legally incompetent. Who's on your board? 6 members. 3 I appointed. 3 represent the investors. Is Derek on the board? No, but his best friend Gregory Marsh is. Gregory represents one of the major investors. Thomas's investigative mind was racing now, pieces forming patterns. Derek wanted the company. Divorce denied him that. Murder would trigger the will, everything to charity. But incapacitation, that could create opportunities. Legal battles over competency, pressure to sell, manipulation through friendly board members. Luna, I think the accident wasn't meant to kill you. I think it was meant to incapacitate you, make you unable to run the company, create an opening for Derek to challenge your competency or force a sale. That's a big accusation. I know, but it fits. The cameras being disabled suggests inside knowledge. Someone who knew which cameras covered that intersection and how to disable them. The timing suggests surveillance. Someone who knew your schedule and when you'd be driving that route. The white van is generic, untraceable. Everything points to planning, professional execution. Luna was pale. You really think Derek tried to kill me? I think someone did. Derek's the obvious suspect, but I'd need evidence, real evidence. Police reports, camera footage, phone records, financial transactions. The kind of investigation I used to do. But you're not an investigator anymore. No, I'm a waiter who makes pancakes and listens to Frozen on repeat. Thomas looked at Mia, who was watching him with wide eyes. I can't take on a case. I have responsibilities. What if I hired you? Luna said suddenly. As a private investigator, I'll pay whatever it takes. If someone tried to kill me, I need to know. I need them held accountable. Thomas felt torn. The investigator in him wanted this case desperately. The father in him knew better. Luna, I can't. I quit this life for a reason. Mia needs stability, routine, safety, not a dad chasing criminals. What if we made it work? Luna pressed. What if I hired a nanny for Mia? Someone trustworthy, someone who could cover while you work the investigation. I'll pay for everything, childcare, your lost wages from the cafe, any expenses. You'd still be present for Mia, just with support. Thomas wanted to say no, wanted to protect the safe, simple life he'd built. But he looked at Luna's face, the hope, the fear, the desperate need for answers, and felt something shift. Let me think about it, he said finally. That night, after putting Mia to bed, Thomas sat at his kitchen table and thought about what Luna was asking, about the case that his investigative instincts were screaming to take, about the risks and the rewards, and what mattered most. He thought about Rachel, about what she would want. She'd been fierce about protecting Mia, but she'd also been fierce about justice, about using your talents to help people, about not letting fear make you small. What would you do? Thomas asked the photo of Rachel on his nightstand. She smiled back at him, frozen at 28, forever young and full of life. The answer came clearly. She'd tell him to take the case, to use his gifts, to help someone who needed help, but to do it smart, to protect Mia, to not sacrifice fatherhood for work. Thomas called Luna the next morning. I'll take the case, but my terms. I work while Mia's in school. I'm home by 3 p.m. every day. Weekends are for Mia, not investigation. If anything gets dangerous, I walk away. Mia comes first, always. Agreed, Luna said immediately. When do we start? Now. Thomas started where all investigations start, with the police report. Luna provided copies. 3 pages of bureaucratic language that said almost nothing. Thomas read through them carefully at his kitchen table after putting Mia to bed, seeing exactly what he expected. Minimal investigation, no leads, case closed as hit and run with unknown perpetrator. The report was dated March 16th, 1 day after the accident, filed by Detective Robert Shaw, NYPD Traffic Division. The language was perfunctory, almost template, like Shaw had filled in the blanks on a form rather than conducting an actual investigation. Incident: motor vehicle collision, March 15th, 11:47 p.m., intersection of Wall Street and Water Street. Victim: Luna Reeves, age 37, driver of 2022. Tesla, Model S, struck by unknown vehicle, white van, fled scene. Victim transported to Mount Sinai Hospital with severe injuries, including traumatic amputation of left arm. Investigation: canvassed scene for witnesses, none located. Reviewed security camera footage, cameras disabled, no usable footage. Searched for vehicle debris, none recovered. No suspect vehicle located, no leads at this time. Case classification: hit and run, unknown perpetrator. That was it. 3 pages, no follow-up interviews, no canvass of nearby businesses, no traffic camera review, no attempt to track down white vans matching the description. Nothing. Thomas knew how traffic investigations worked. He'd worked with the traffic division on dozens of cases during his DA years. This wasn't how they operated. Even routine hit-and-runs got more attention than this. Someone had made sure this case went nowhere, but Thomas knew how to read between the lines. The report mentioned disabled security cameras but didn't question how or why. That alone was suspicious. Security cameras don't just fail, especially not multiple cameras in the financial district. Those systems were professionally maintained, redundantly backed up, monitored 24/7. For all of them to be disabled simultaneously suggested deliberate sabotage. The report mentioned a white van, but didn't canvass local traffic cameras or toll booths. Thomas knew there were dozens of traffic cameras within a mile radius. Toll cameras on every bridge and tunnel out of Manhattan. If someone had really wanted to find that van, they could have. The report mentioned no witnesses, but didn't interview businesses in the area that might have been open. The financial district had cleaning crews, security guards, late-night workers. Someone had to have seen something. This wasn't just lazy investigation. This was deliberately limited investigation. Someone had made sure the case went nowhere, and Thomas needed to find out who and why. Thomas started making calls. Old contacts from the DA's office, cops he'd worked with, people who owed him favors or respected his skills. He got access to the traffic camera records, spent hours reviewing footage from surrounding streets. Found something the police report claimed didn't exist. A white van, captured on a camera 2 blocks away, license plate partially visible. Thomas ran the partial plate, found 12 possible matches, cross-referenced them with financial records, who owned white vans in the city, who had connections to Derek Chen, who had technical skills to disable security systems. One name appeared: Marcus Wade, registered owner of a white van matching the description, former IT security specialist. Current employment: Chen Technologies, Derek's new company, founded 3 months after the divorce. Thomas felt the familiar thrill of pieces fitting together. Derek's employee, technical skills to disable cameras, access to a white van, employed 3 months after the divorce, suggesting recent hire specifically for this job. He dug deeper, found Marcus's financial records, a $50,000 deposit 2 days before the accident. Source: Shell Corporation, traced back to Chen Technologies. Blood money, payment for attempted murder. But Thomas needed more, needed irrefutable proof, needed the kind of evidence that would stand up in court and put Derek behind bars. He started surveillance on Marcus Wade. This was the tricky part. Thomas had to do this while Mia was in school, be home by 3 p.m., maintain his normal routine while secretly following a potential murderer. Thomas borrowed equipment from an old friend at the DA's office: GPS tracker, long-range camera, burner phones. The tools of surveillance work. Felt familiar in his hands despite 5 years away. He tracked Marcus for a week, learned his patterns. Marcus lived in a studio apartment in the Bronx, worked 9 to 5 at Chen Technologies, a startup founded by Derek Chen 6 months ago, grabbed lunch at the same deli every day, hit the gym 3 evenings a week, seemed like a normal, boring life, except on Thursdays. Every Thursday, Marcus left work an hour early, drove to a storage facility on the outskirts of Queens, stayed for exactly 2 hours, then left. Thomas followed him the first Thursday, watched from a distance as Marcus entered Unit NUP 237 with a duffel bag, came out 2 hours later with the duffel bag and a large trash bag. Threw the trash bag in a dumpster behind a convenience store 3 blocks away. Thomas waited until Marcus left, then checked the dumpster, found cleaning supplies inside the trash bag: heavy-duty bleach, industrial-strength cleaner, scrub brushes, all used, all reeking of chemicals. Someone was cleaning something that needed industrial chemicals and weekly maintenance. The next Thursday, Thomas was ready. He positioned himself across from the storage facility with his long-range camera, captured Marcus entering Unit number 237, waited. 2 hours later, Marcus emerged. Same duffel bag, same trash bag, same routine. Thomas waited 30 minutes to make sure Marcus was gone, then approached Unit number 237. The lock was decent, commercial grade, pick-resistant. Thomas had learned lock-picking during his prosecutor days. Evidence recovery sometimes required creative entry. He picked the lock in 90 seconds. Technically illegal. Anything he found would be inadmissible in court. But Thomas wasn't planning to use this evidence directly. He just needed to know what he was dealing with, needed confirmation before bringing in official channels. The storage unit was 10 feet by 15 feet, dimly lit by a single bulb, and in the center, covered by a tarp, sat a vehicle. Thomas pulled back the tarp. White van, Ford Transit, recently repainted. Thomas could smell the fresh paint. New license plates, New Jersey registration, likely fake. But underneath the cosmetic changes, the bones of the vehicle told the story. Thomas found the VIN plate, ran his finger over the stamped numbers, pulled out his phone and compared it to his list of possibles from the traffic camera footage. Match. This was the van that had hit Luna. Thomas pulled out his camera, started documenting, photographed the VIN from multiple angles, the fresh paint job, the new plates, every detail. Then he searched the interior. Marcus had done a thorough job cleaning. The seats had been shampooed, the floors scrubbed, the dashboard wiped down. Everything smelled of bleach and industrial cleaner. But Thomas knew something Marcus apparently didn't. Blood is almost impossible to completely remove. It seeps into cracks, soaks into upholstery, leaves traces that survive even aggressive cleaning. Thomas had brought a UV flashlight, the kind forensics teams use to detect biological fluids. He clicked it on and swept it across the interior. The van lit up like a crime scene, blood patterns everywhere. Driver's side door showed impact spatter, consistent with striking a person. The windshield had been replaced, but the frame showed traces. The floor mats had been removed, but the carpet underneath glowed with fluorescent traces. And in the back, hidden in the seam where the wall met the floor, Thomas found something Marcus had missed: a long blonde hair, caught in the metal edge, preserved despite the cleaning. Thomas carefully extracted the hair with tweezers, placed it in an evidence bag he'd brought, not admissible in court since he'd obtained it illegally. but it could be tested privately, could confirm this was Luna's DNA. Then Thomas noticed something else. A laptop bag tucked in the corner, partially hidden under a paint tarp. Thomas opened it, found a laptop, older model, password protected, but also found papers, printed emails, text message transcripts, all the communication between Marcus and Derek. Marcus had kept insurance, proof that Derek had hired him, probably planning to use it for blackmail or protection if things went south. Criminals often did that, kept evidence against their employers in case they needed leverage. Thomas photographed every page, every email, every text, built a complete digital record of the conspiracy. Then he put everything back exactly as he'd found it, recovered the van with the tarp, locked the storage unit, left no trace that he'd been there. He had what he needed. Now he needed to make it official. Thomas called his old contact at the DA's office, Margaret Chen, his former supervisor. "Margaret, it's Thomas Brooks. I need a favor." "Thomas, it's been 5 years. How are you? How's Mia?" "We're good. Listen, I need you to trust me. I have evidence of attempted murder. I need a warrant and a forensics team. Can you make that happen?" Margaret didn't hesitate. "Give me the address." The warrant was executed that night. Forensics found everything Thomas had seen plus more: digital records of the camera hack, text messages between Marcus and Derek using coded language, financial transfers that mapped directly to the timeline of the accident. Derek Chen and Marcus Wade were arrested 2 days later. SWAT teams executed search warrants simultaneously: Derek's penthouse apartment, Marcus's studio, the Chen Technologies offices. Seized computers, phones, documents, everything. Both men were charged with attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, aggravated assault, witness tampering. They'd paid off Detective Shaw to minimize the investigation, and about a dozen other felonies. The evidence was overwhelming. Derek hired the most expensive defense attorneys money could buy. Big law firm, aggressive strategies, tried to paint Luna as a vindictive ex-wife manufacturing evidence, tried to discredit Thomas as an amateur investigator with no official standing, tried to suppress the storage unit evidence as fruit of an illegal search. Nothing worked. The prosecution had too much. Traffic camera footage showing Marcus's van, financial records showing the payments, email communications planning the attack, the disabled security cameras with digital fingerprints leading back to Marcus's IT expertise. The storage unit contents seized under a proper warrant after Thomas provided enough legal evidence for probable cause. The DNA evidence from the van matching Luna. The printed communications Marcus had kept as insurance. Marcus flipped first. 2 weeks after arrest, his public defender negotiated a deal. Full cooperation. Complete confession, testimony against Derek. In exchange, attempted murder charge dropped to aggravated assault. 15-year sentence with parole eligibility after 10. Marcus gave them everything, testified that Derek had approached him 6 months after the divorce, offered him $50,000 to solve a problem, wanted Luna incapacitated but not killed. Murder would trigger her will, leaving everything to charity, but serious injury would create opportunity. Derek said if she couldn't run the company, the board would have to intervene, Marcus testified. He had a friend on the board, Gregory Marsh. The plan was to use Luna's injuries to question her competency, force her to sell her shares. Derek would buy them at a discount through shell corporations, get the company he thought he deserved. Derek's attorneys tried to cross-examine, tried to paint Marcus as a liar, trying to save himself. But the financial records backed up every claim. The emails showed Derek's involvement. The plan was documented in digital detail. Derek finally pled guilty. Even his expensive lawyers couldn't argue against the evidence. He negotiated for 25 years in exchange for avoiding trial. Marcus got his 15-year deal finalized. The sentencing hearing was 3 months after the arrests. Luna testified, told the judge about the accident, the injuries, the loss of her arm, the months of recovery, about the nightmares and the fear and the way she'd looked over her shoulder for months, wondering if someone would try again. "They didn't just try to take my life," Luna said, her voice steady but emotional. "They took my sense of safety, my trust in the world. They took my arm, my ability to do simple things I'd always taken for granted. Typing, cooking, hugging someone with both arms. All gone. I've adapted. I've survived. But I'll never get back what they took." Luna looked directly at Derek, her ex-husband, the man she'd loved, who'd betrayed her with infidelity and then tried to destroy her with violence. "You couldn't stand that I was more successful than you," Luna said, "that I built something bigger than you could imagine, that I didn't need you. So you tried to take everything from me, my company, my independence, my body, my life. You failed. I'm still here. I'm still running my company. I'm still successful. And I've found something you never gave me, actual love. A man who protects me instead of trying to destroy me. A family that values me for who I am, not what I own. You took my arm, but you gave me clarity about what actually matters. So in a way, I should thank you. You've shown me that I'm stronger than I ever knew." Derek sat stone-faced. His lawyers had advised him not to react. But Thomas saw it, the flash of rage in Derek's eyes, the realization that he'd lost, that Luna had won. The judge sentenced Derek to the maximum. 25 years, no parole eligibility for 20. Marcus got his 15 years with parole after 10. Gregory Marsh, the board member who'd been part of the conspiracy, was arrested separately. Charged with conspiracy and securities fraud, got 10 years. Luna's company board was restructured. Clean slate. New members who actually cared about the company, not schemes. Justice was served. Luna was safe. The people who'd tried to destroy her were in prison for decades. After the sentencing, Thomas, Luna and Mia went out for ice cream. Normal, simple, celebratory in a quiet way. "It's over," Luna said, watching Mia attack a triple scoop cone. "Really over. They can't hurt me anymore." "No," Thomas agreed. "They can't. And if anyone else tries, they'll have to go through me first." "My hero." Luna smiled, leaned over and kissed him. Again. Thomas had saved Luna twice now, once by investigating, once by loving her. Both were equally important. Luna testified at the sentencing hearing, told the judge about losing her arm, about the pain and the months of physical therapy and learning to live differently, about the nightmares, about looking over her shoulder constantly wondering if someone would try again. "They didn't just try to take my life," Luna said. "They took my sense of safety, my trust, my body. I'll never get my arm back. But I got something else. I got answers. I got justice. And I got that because one man cared enough to ask questions when everyone else accepted easy answers. Thomas Brooks gave me back my life, not the arm, but the life, the knowledge that I'm safe now, that the people who hurt me will pay. That matters more than anything." The judge sentenced Derek to the maximum, 25 years, no parole eligibility for 15. After the trial, Luna took Thomas and Mia to dinner at the most expensive restaurant in the city. Mia wore her fanciest dress. Thomas wore the one suit he owned, bought for Rachel's funeral and never worn since. Luna wore a beautiful flowing dress with one sleeve tailored perfectly. "I can't thank you enough," Luna said over champagne, sparkling cider for Mia. "You didn't have to help me. You'd walked away from this life. But you came back. You risked everything to find the truth." "I didn't risk everything," Thomas corrected. "I protected Mia first, always. That was the deal. Still, you could have said no. Most people would have." Thomas looked at Mia, who was very seriously explaining to the waiter why purple should be an ice cream flavor. "You asked for help. I was able to give it. That's what we do for people who matter." Luna met his eyes. "Do I matter? To you?" The question hung in the air. Thomas knew the answer. Had known it for weeks, really, but had been too afraid to admit it. "Yes, you matter. You and Mia are the first people to make me feel anything besides grief in 3 years. You make me laugh. You challenge me. You remind me that I'm more than just Mia's dad, though that's still my most important job. You matter, Luna. A lot." Luna reached across the table with her right hand. Thomas took it. "I'd like to matter more," Luna said quietly, "if you'll let me." Thomas thought about Rachel, about promises made and kept, about moving forward without forgetting the past, about building something new while honoring what came before. "I'd like that too." They dated carefully, slowly, building something real while navigating the complications of Luna's public profile and Thomas's fierce protection of Mia's privacy. The first few months were complicated. Luna was a public figure, billionaire CEO, Forbes list regular, frequent target of business media. Her every move got photographed, analyzed, gossiped about. Thomas was aggressively private, a waiter raising his daughter quietly, avoiding attention, protecting Mia from scrutiny. They had to find balance. They kept the relationship quiet for 6 months, just Saturday morning coffees that slowly stretched into Saturday lunches. Then Saturday lunches that occasionally became Saturday dinners after Mia went to bed. Phone calls after 10 p.m. when Mia was asleep and Luna was finally done with work. Careful, tentative steps toward something more. Their first real date, beyond the coffee shop, was 2 months in. Luna had suggested dinner at a restaurant. Thomas had panicked. "I can't afford the places you eat," he'd said bluntly, "and I'm not letting you pay. That feels wrong." Luna had laughed. "Then pick the place, somewhere you like. I don't care if it's a 5-star restaurant or a taco truck. I care about spending time with you." Thomas had taken her to a hole-in-the-wall Italian place in Queens, the kind of restaurant with plastic tablecloths and candles in wine bottles, where the owner knew everyone by name and the portions were huge, where a full meal cost $20 and tasted better than anything in Manhattan. Luna had loved it, had ordered spaghetti carbonara and eaten every bite, had talked with the owner in broken Italian she'd learned from her grandmother, had felt more relaxed than Thomas had ever seen her. "This is better than any business dinner I've ever had," she'd said. "Nobody wants anything from me. Nobody's trying to impress me or manipulate me. It's just food and company and normal. I forget how nice normal feels." That's when Thomas realized something important. Luna wasn't looking for fancy. She was looking for real, and he could give her that. They started spending more time together, always careful around Mia. Thomas didn't want to introduce someone into his daughter's life who might disappear. Didn't want Mia to get attached to someone who might not stick around. But Luna was patient, never pushed, never demanded more than Thomas could give. When he said he couldn't do weekends because those were for Mia, Luna said okay. When he said he couldn't stay overnight because he needed to be home when Mia woke up, Luna understood. When he said he wasn't ready to introduce her as his girlfriend yet, Luna gave him time. "I'm not going anywhere," Luna told him 3 months in. "Take whatever time you need. I understand Mia comes first. That's not a problem. That's one of the things I love about you. You're an incredible father. I'd never ask you to compromise that." Thomas had kissed her for the first time that night, standing in the parking lot of that Italian restaurant in Queens, kissing her like he was 25 again instead of 34, like possibility existed instead of just responsibility. "I'm falling in love with you," he'd whispered against her lips. And that terrifies me, because last time I fell in love, I lost her, and I don't know if I can survive that again. You won't lose me, Luna promised. I'm tougher than I look. Someone tried to kill me, and I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere, Thomas. Not unless you ask me to leave. Thomas introduced Luna to Mia 4 months into their relationship. Casual, low-key. Just Luna joining them for Saturday coffee like she had for weeks. Except this time, Thomas explained that Luna was special, that she was more than just a friend, that she was someone Daddy cared about very much. Mia, with the brutal honesty of 6-year-olds, had looked at Luna and asked, "Are you going to be my new mommy?" Luna had knelt down to Mia's eye level. "I would never try to replace your mommy. Heaven Mom Rachel will always be your real mom. She gave birth to you. She loved you. She's watching over you. I could never take her place, but I could be your Luna mom, someone else who loves you and your daddy, if that's okay with you." Mia had thought about this seriously. "Will you read me stories?" "Yes." "Will you make pancakes with Daddy on Sundays?" "If your daddy teaches me how." "Will you stay, or will you leave like Mommy did?" Luna's eyes had filled with tears. "I will stay as long as your daddy wants me here. I promise." Mia had nodded. "Okay, you can be Luna Mom." And just like that, they were a family. Mia loved having Luna in their lives, called her Luna Mom to distinguish from Heaven Mom Rachel, would climb into Luna's lap during movie nights, asked Luna to help with homework, wanted Luna at school events, accepted her with the easy adaptability of children who understand that love multiplies rather than divides. Luna adapted to one-armed parenting with creativity and determination. Learned to braid Mia's hair one-handed, took her 2 weeks of YouTube tutorials and practice, but she mastered it, figured out how to help Mia with craft projects, attended physical therapy sessions, and practiced adaptive techniques so she could participate fully in Mia's life. Thomas watched Luna navigate single-armed motherhood and fell even more in love, because Luna didn't make excuses, didn't let her disability limit her, just figured out solutions and kept showing up. Thomas proposed on the 1-year anniversary of the day Luna asked to share their table, got down on one knee in the same corner booth at the morning brew where everything started. "Luna Reeves, a year ago you asked if you could share this table. Best question anyone ever asked me. You brought light back into my life. You reminded me that I could be more than grief. You loved my daughter like she was yours. You let me protect you without making me feel less for choosing fatherhood over career. You're brilliant and strong and kind and everything I didn't know I needed. Will you marry me?" Luna said yes through tears. The wedding was small but perfect. 100 guests, close friends, family, colleagues who'd become friends. The ceremony at the morning brew, the cafe where everything started. The owner had been thrilled to host, decorated the space with flowers and lights, created a magical atmosphere in the place that had witnessed their first conversation. Mia was Flower Girl, wearing a purple dress she'd picked herself, custom-made because she'd insisted on that specific shade of purple that only existed in her imagination. Luna had made it happen, had hired a seamstress, had sat through fittings, had created purple flower petals through some botanical magic Thomas didn't understand. Because that's who Luna was, someone who made impossible things happen for the people she loved. Thomas wore a new suit, first suit he'd bought in a decade, navy blue, tailored perfectly, nice enough to make him feel confident, but not so expensive it felt wrong. Luna wore a beautiful white dress with one sleeve tailored perfectly. The right sleeve was traditional, lace and silk, elegant and flowing. The left shoulder was designed specifically for her body, No awkward pinning, no empty fabric, just beautiful tailored lines that acknowledged her reality without hiding it. The dress was stunning. Luna was stunning. Her blonde hair styled in soft waves with small white flowers woven through. The ceremony was officiated by Judge Patricia Morrison, the same judge who'd sentenced Derek and Marcus. She'd become a friend during the trial, had reached out after sentencing to tell Thomas he'd done excellent work, had offered to marry them when she heard about the engagement. "We are gathered here today," Judge Morrison began, "in this cafe where Thomas and Luna's story started with a simple question: can I share this table?" The answer was yes, and that yes led to investigation, to justice, to healing, to love, to family. Sometimes the biggest love stories start with the smallest moments. Thomas and Luna are proof that courage comes in many forms. Asking a stranger for help, protecting someone you've just met, risking your heart again after loss, choosing to trust despite betrayal. Today they're choosing each other. Let's witness that choice. They wrote their own vows. Luna went first. She stood holding Thomas's hand, her voice steady but emotional. "Thomas, you saved my life, not just by finding Derek and Marcus, but by teaching me what actually matters. I spent 40 years chasing success, building companies, making money, winning, proving I was enough, proving I deserved to exist in spaces that told me I didn't belong. I became a billionaire, made the Forbes list, built an empire, but I was alone, completely, devastatingly alone. I ate dinner by myself, woke up in empty beds, had no one to call when I was scared or sad, or just wanted to share something funny. Success without connection is just expensive loneliness." Luna squeezed Thomas's hand. "Then you walked into my life. A waiter with a 6-year-old daughter and a history you'd walked away from. You didn't care about my money, didn't want my connections. You just saw someone who needed help and chose to provide it. You investigated when the police wouldn't. You asked questions when everyone else accepted easy answers. You risked everything, your safety, your time, your carefully built quiet life, to find the truth for someone you barely knew." Tears were streaming down Luna's face now. "You showed me that connection matters more than achievement, that showing up for the people you love matters more than showing up on Forbes lists, that Mia's honest questions and your pancake Sundays and our Saturday morning coffees matter more than every corporate board meeting I've ever attended. You gave me a family. You gave me Mia, the daughter I never had but always wanted. You gave me love that's patient and kind and real, love that doesn't demand I be perfect or successful or anything other than myself." Luna looked at Mia, who was crying too. "I promise to honor your past while building our future, to keep Rachel's memory alive, to talk about Heaven Mom with Mia, to visit her grave, to make sure she's never forgotten, to be Mia's Luna Mom without ever trying to replace the mother she lost. To never ask you to choose between career and family, because I understand now that you already made the right choice, and it's the same choice I'm making today. Family first, always. I promise to love you exactly as you are. Brilliant investigator, devoted father, terrible singer, Frozen soundtrack survivor who knows every word to let it go whether he wants to or not. I choose you, Thomas Brooks, today and every day for the rest of our lives." Thomas's turn. His voice shook. He'd written his vows on note cards but couldn't read them through the tears, so he spoke from his heart. "Luna, a year ago you asked if you could share my table. Best question anyone ever asked me. Because sharing a table led to sharing stories, led to sharing trust, led to sharing lives. You could have hired any investigator in the city, professionals with active licenses and current connections, but you asked me, a waiter who'd walked away from this life, to be a full-time dad. You saw potential I'd forgotten I had. You reminded me that using my gifts to help people isn't betraying fatherhood. It's modeling it. teaching Mia that we use our talents to protect the vulnerable, that we step up when people need help, that walking away from a career doesn't mean walking away from who you are. Thomas looked at Mia. You loved Mia before you loved me. That told me everything about your character. You knelt down to talk to her at eye level. You answered her inappropriate questions with honesty and grace. You learned to braid hair one-handed so she could have ponytails like the other girls. You attended school plays and parent-teacher conferences and made her feel like she mattered. Not because she was my daughter and you were trying to impress me, but because she's an amazing kid who deserves to be seen. Thomas turned back to Luna. You respected Rachel's memory, never competed with a ghost, never asked me to forget her or pretend she didn't exist. You made space for yourself in our lives without demanding we erase what came before. You understood that love doesn't replace, it adds. That Mia could have a Heaven mom and a Luna mom. That I could love you without betraying Rachel. That moving forward doesn't mean forgetting the past. He took a shaky breath. I promise to keep you safe, to investigate when you need answers, and listen when you just need presence. To be your partner, not your employee or your bodyguard or your project, but your equal partner who chooses you every single day. To build a life where Mia sees healthy love, where she understands that family comes in many forms, where she knows that losing someone doesn't mean you can't find someone else, that loving again doesn't diminish what came before. I choose you, Luna Reeves, today and always. They were pronounced married, kissed while everyone cheered. It was a good kiss, the kind that made the guests awe and made Mia say, "You, gross," while secretly smiling, the kind that felt like a beginning. Mia threw purple flower petals, special ordered because they don't exist naturally, but Luna had made them happen anyway through some combination of fabric, glitter and determination. Photographers captured the moment, Thomas lifting Luna with one arm while she laughed, kissing her while Mia danced between them throwing petals. A family, complete. 5 years later, they sat in their backyard watching Mia, now 11, practice soccer in the late afternoon sun. Their house was in the suburbs, not a mansion despite Luna's wealth, but a comfortable 4-bedroom with a big yard and a swing set. Normal, deliberately normal, because after everything they'd been through, normal felt like luxury. Luna coached from the sidelines with adapted techniques she'd learned for one-armed activities. She'd gotten remarkably good at it, using a whistle, clipboard balanced on her knee, shouting encouragement that made 11-year-olds run faster. She'd joined adaptive sports organizations, had become an advocate for one-armed athletes, had used her platform to push for better prosthetics research and accessibility, but right now she was just Mia's Luna mom, cheering from the sidelines. Thomas grilled burgers on their patio, wearing an apron that said, "Dad Jokes Loading," that Mia had given him for Father's Day. He kept an eye on their 2-year-old twin boys, Ryan and Cole, who were supposed to be playing with sidewalk chalk, but were actually eating it. Parenthood was chaos. Thomas loved every minute. Luna had balanced work and family in ways that would have seemed impossible 5 years ago. She'd hired a brilliant COO, a woman named Sarah Martinez, who ran day-to-day operations at Reeves Tech with efficiency and vision. Luna focused on strategy, big-picture decisions, the kind of work that could be done in 20 hours a week instead of 80. She'd discovered that stepping back didn't mean losing control. It meant trusting others and making space for life. The company thrived, profitability increased, innovation accelerated. Turned out a CEO who had work-life balance made better decisions than one running on no sleep and constant stress. Luna attended school plays now, made pancakes on Sunday mornings, knew the names of Mia's friends and Ryan's favorite cartoon and Cole's obsession with trucks, discovered that life was richer measured in moments, Mia's goals, the twins' first words, Thomas's terrible dad jokes, not quarterly earnings. Thomas had returned to investigation work, not full-time, but consulting. He'd gotten his private investigator license, took cases that interested him, worked mostly from home office while the kids were in school, maintained his presence for the kids while using his gifts to help people. Found balance Rachel would have been proud of. He specialized in cases like Luna's, attempted murders disguised as accidents, corporate conspiracies, financial crimes targeting vulnerable victims. Used his prosecutor background and investigative instincts to find truth when police gave up. Got paid well for it, not billionaire money, but comfortable, enough to contribute to the household, enough to feel useful. But more importantly, he was home by 3 p.m. every day, was at every school event, every doctor's appointment, every bedtime, being present for his kids while also being himself. The balance he'd thought was impossible turned out to be achievable when you had a partner who valued presence as much as you did. "I never thought I'd have this," Luna said, watching Mia score a goal. "A husband, children, a family that actually feels like family. After the accident, after losing my arm, I thought I'd lost everything. Turned out I was about to find everything." Thomas pulled her close. "You asked if you could share a table. Changed both our lives." "Best question I ever asked." Mia ran over. "Did you see my goal?" "I saw it. That footwork was incredible." Luna high-fived her. "Can we get ice cream?" "Absolutely. Tell your brothers we're going for ice cream after practice." Mia ran off. The twins babbled for attention. Thomas picked up Ryan while Luna grabbed Cole, her prosthetic arm, worn only sometimes for specific tasks, making the lift easier. "Thank you," Thomas said softly. "For what?" "For asking to share that table, for trusting me with your case, for loving Mia, for giving me permission to be more than just a waiter, for building this family, for proving that loss doesn't mean life is over, it just means life is different." Luna smiled. "You saved my life twice. Once by catching Derek. Once by reminding me what life was actually for. That's more than ice cream." They sat together watching their family. Mia celebrating with teammates, the twins babbling happily, the life they'd built from a simple question at a coffee shop. Thomas had walked into that cafe expecting a routine Saturday. Got a case, got answers, got justice, got love. Sometimes the person asking to share your table is actually asking to share your life. Sometimes saying yes to a simple question means saying yes to everything that follows. Thomas and Luna had found that. Had built a life on honesty and trust, and the kind of love that makes room for the past while building the future. They'd proved that happy endings aren't about having perfect lives. They're about having honest ones. About asking hard questions and accepting complicated answers, about using your gifts to help people and letting people help you back. Thomas had been a brilliant investigator who became a waiter, who became an investigator again. Luna had been a lonely CEO who lost an arm and found a family. Mia had lost a mother and gained another one. Their story started with, "Can I share this table?" The answer was yes, to the table, to the investigation, to the love, to the life, always yes.